Average American is losing $34,000 and everything else on Biden's watch. 401k plans have suffered $2.1 trillion.
$16.5 billion of new mortgage originations happened in Q2.
Average American is losing $34,000 and everything else on Biden's watch. We have calculated over the past 20 months the rise in consumer prices over wages means that the average family in America has lost nearly $6,000 in purchasing power. That negative returns don't even take account of inflation. Doing so adds roughly another 13% or so to these stock losses. Inflation also hurts returns from bonds, which typically accounts to between 20 to 40% of retirement funds. Tie it all together, and we calculate that since the start of this year, to date, these assets have shrunk to $101,000. Wow. In other words, today, the average 401k is down $34,000, more than 25% in less than 1 year.
I think this just underlines how badly the middle class is getting crushed, and the media doesn't want to talk about it. Certainly, administration doesn't want to talk about it. The reality is the media is getting crushed. Related to this, B of A announced their third quarter results on originations of home equity, mortgages, and credit cards. But what's interesting, you know what the average FICO score for the new home equity lines was in Q3? That? 792.
What?
The average. The answer is only incredibly wealthy people that have got the juice were able to get the home equity line. It gets worse.
The average person who got a HELOC, their average credit score was 792
in Q3, and that's
Q3.
That's directly
so only people with very good credit score.
That's not very good credit score. That's perfection.
Correct.
792.
It gets worse. Also, B of A, I double checked it. B of A announces 768 was the new mortgages in Q3. So the only people buying our house are people that are way up and able to afford it. So I think you take those two pieces of information, that only the people with juice are able to get HELOCs and new loans, and you take a look at all this, the middle class is getting crushed. And if you just look far enough, you're seeing the true depth of it. People aren't buying new houses, are not able to get HELOCs, and now they've lost all this power, and they've also lost their retirement.
I don't know. I think this article is a little disingenuous, and I'll tell you why. Because I have a 401k, all right, and I'm 41 years old. I'm not retiring anytime soon. So let's say I have $500,000 in my 401k right now, and it goes down from 500,000 to 400,000. Doesn't fucking matter. I'm not touching my 401k until I'm 70 years old anyway. So it's almost irrelevant. It's like, who cares? However, who it does affect, so this is why I'm saying it's a little disingenuous, are seniors. We've heard recent stories about seniors or people that were going to retire now have to extend their career for another 3 to 5 years. They have to plan on that. Social Security benefits are now being extended, 8.2% more than normal.
Right.
So retirees, if they don't have a better plan in place, then they're the ones who are going to suffer. When you're young, you should have 80% in stocks, 20% in bonds, or as you age, 60% in stocks, 40% in bonds. But if you're 75 years old and you don't have 80% of your portfolio in bonds, what are you doing anyway?
Here's the challenge, though.
Go ahead.
The challenge with that is, I, as a person who was a financial advisor for 20 plus years, 20 years, give or take, Series 7, 66, 31, 26, you take all this stuff I've sold. I can sell futures, commodities, bonds, stocks, options, put, call, annuities, life, all that stuff. I cannot tell you how many companies who people have their 401ks with, how few times the average 401k holder sits down to readjust and reallocate where their monies are at.
Yeah.
If the person's listening right now and you have a 401k with a company, okay, when is the last time the 401k specialist of your company came in, sat down with you to tell you to reallocate it based on your age, where you're at with the current economy? When's the last time that happened? You know how often that happens? It rarely happens, and if it happens, it's less than 1% of the time. If somebody's got money in their 401k, pretty well-known person's like, hey, Pat, man, I haven't looked at my 401k for a while. Can you just take a look at it? Like, this is a person that's made real money. And I'm like, when's the last time you looked at it? Not in a long time. I'm like, seriously? Yeah, and they're not young.
How old are they?
Late 50s, early 60s.
Yeah, they should be paying close attention to it.
But it's not that they should be. You know, it's the same story with most people should get annual physicals done. Most people should get their teeth checked out. Most people, what most of us should do and what we do are two different things. Most boomers are not sitting there reallocating their 401ks on time. Even though you're right, for a guy like you're like, dude, I'm not retiring for another 25 years. You know, maybe you'll retire in 3 years because your style's different. But for the average person in their late 30s, early 40s, is going to go for a while, you know. People in their mid 50s, late 50s, early 60s, they're not sitting there reallocating their retirement. They're being hit by it.